Hey Facebook, good afternoon. It is now 2:30 on Tuesday, the 9th of January, the year is 2018. I'm Walter Hampton II. I'm sitting here with my mother, Alberta Hampton. We're discussing the educational system here in Georgia, and can it be changed for better for African American children, Black American children? Any thoughts?
Well, I think one of the problems is that a lot of these girls, and they don't realize that they do need a father in the home with the children that they're bearing, and that I don't think that they should, personal opinion though, that you should. A lot of them are young, and I was talking to a guy just the other day. He's from Georgia, and he would go down to Winder to visit his grandparents. And some of the young girls down there, 13, 14 years of age, were already bearing children.
I can believe that.
And see...
is that unusual for Black folks?
Is that unusual?
Yeah.
It depends on the community where you come from.
Because it happens.
Yeah, and I don't think it's as... I don't know.
If you were raising young girls today, would you put them on birth control at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years of age?
I believe that it's probably the best thing to do because sex seems to be a thing that at that age is coming to be laying with a young boy that can produce it. Both of you can produce children, but you're not old enough or have enough wisdom, to be married, to have jobs, homes, and the different things that you need.
Do you think Black people are just simply having children? And I'm focused on Black folks because we're Black. You do consider yourself Black, don't you? We ain't white over here. So I can see the videos now. White folks do this too. Rat's heads about them. Since we focus on the Black community because we live in the Black community, do you think that one of the reasons why areas like Stone Mountain, Clayton County, Douglas County have so modern poverty is because people are having children at too early an age?
You said, do I think it's a problem?
Do you think that they're having children too early and that's what's causing this poverty in our communities and danger?
Yeah, because you have to be a mature woman to, a lot of people might not agree with this, but it's good to have maturity on your side when you start having children. At least you yourself has done something in the world and given yourself a chance.
Is someone under the age of 21 possibly too young to have children?
Not really. From 18, 19 on up. But they have to have some maturity under their belt. 18,
19 years of age, having children with no income, no assets, no possibilities, no education.
We're talking about...
They can possibly have the jobs or income at 18 or 19 years of age. How? Because they win the lottery. 19, 18, where are they going to be working at? Making income to support a child?
Oh, we're talking about married women. We're not talking about single women.
Married or not, no one under the age of 21, really under 25, as far as I'm concerned, should be having children. That's how I feel. You got to get some type of maturity in your life.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you do need to be
some type of income. Got to have an education.
People mature before 25.
But with no education, maturity is not going to do you any good. With no income sufficient enough to raise children, you got to be much older.
Well, that's because of the system that we live in now.
The job market sucks for these people today.
Yeah, the housing and all of it.
All the stuff is rough.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's very impossible to, unless you move way out in the country someplace. But you can that brings to another question. Would you have preferred to have raised your children in the urban environments that you did, or would you have been better off taking your children out of the country? If you can go back, would you have moved out to somewhere in the country where is it, Indiana, Ohio, any place?
The way I
even in Georgia.
I wouldn't have done it in Georgia, but I would have done it somewhere else. But I wouldn't have done it in the South.
Indiana, Illinois.
Because my mother did that for us. She moved us up outside of Chicago to country in Michigan, and I think it was a better move for us.
Do you think blacks do worse off in inner city urban environments?
They're worse off.
So would you encourage young African Americans who are in the area when they start having children to move out into other places?
Most definitely. Take their children and give their children a chance where they can raise them, where the neighbors' children are not raising them and telling them something is right. When
do you find black neighborhoods to be unsafe? Is it a good idea to raise your children around a bunch of black people?
Depends on the black people, though. There are some black people that you would love to raise your children around.
So depending on the neighborhood, is it a neighborhood by neighborhood basis or just black folks in general?
It would be on the neighborhood basis. Of course, in the intelligence of those people, they're raising their children. They have nice homes and nice cars and good jobs.
All right, but you work for some, let me see how I can word this. You have dealt with some pretty wealthy black folks over the years. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're still ignorant?
Name some of them.
No, I don't want to name any.
But I don't mean name, but give me them.
Oh, just doctors that you've worked for, nurses. You worked for a lot of black folks over the years. These people will have...
Am I down here?
Here, north, wherever. Just because you have an income and you have a sufficient income, does that not...
I can't recall any of them not being...
You cleaned a house for a doctor here in Georgia. You used to clean his house. You used to tell me stories about him.
That was a single man.
Okay, so he was single. He didn't have... Okay, but he was...
He was tough with the women.
He was a player.
He was a player. Surely was. He was a doctor, and one of them women thought they was going to get him.
But he was just saying, that's my phone ringing. So, you think that black folks who, just because they have a higher income and education, does it change things in black America?
Well, most of these people you're talking about are from down south. And sex seems to be very prevalent in the South. Mm-hmm. Everybody seems to think that, like this man was telling me about these young girls. One of them had 5 babies, and she went, 15, and these folks just sitting there letting this girl pump out these babies. I mean, what kind of deal is that? He says in the South, down in the country, they have babies.
Well, you say in the South, but, most people are not from here.
Most of the people that we're talking about are from here. I mean, you know what? When people come here that can help change the situation, mm-hmm. they don't embrace them.
I guess my question is, do you think that black Americans who have higher incomes, higher education, are their lives different than those blacks who are in poverty?
Of course their life is different.
Different from a skinny guy drive a nicer car, live in a nicer house. But do they have the same problems?
No.
Different problems?
They don't have the same problems.
They're
married, like you said, they're in a two-family income.
If they're in a two-family income houses, you make an assumption. So remember, we got a lot of black folks raising children. You got a lot of professional black women raising children alone today. No husband to be found.
And that was their choice, right?
I don't necessarily think it was their choice. It's just the way the cards fell out.
Most of
I've met plenty of black women who would make great incomes who are raising children alone. But you can't raise children and work a full-time job. Something's going to come undone. Do you think you can raise children successfully by yourself, no matter what your income is? The children, you just use a good example of a pastor that you know. How did his children come out? We just had this conversation.
But he had the wrong people taking care of his children.
Because he should have been taking care of his own.
He should have been taken care of, but he didn't really.
Did he have the assets?
He thought he could trust the people.
Did he have the assets and income where he should have been able to?
He had it.
Okay, so should black folks, even with higher income, higher education, raise children alone?
You mean single?
A single woman, a single man raising children alone.
No, I think that there should always be a mother and a father the way it should be. You don't need to raise children without both people in the house. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they don't have the skills that they need. There's too many women with children with no father in the house, and our boys are just going wild because there's no men to train them, to teach them how to be men.
Okay, I have a question. You have a gay son, me. What are your thoughts on gay marriage and gay couples raising children successfully? You think it's possible?
It appears to be possible. There's a lot of people that are doing it.
So that's what you say.
I mean, you hear about them and see them, and they seem to think, they love. Most people love children, gay or whatever. You don't.
I don't
particularly care for them.
No children. I don't like the pit pat of the feet running around. These little dogs, I can tolerate them when I throw them in their cages. But I guess my whole thing on this is that sometimes black folks seem to think, okay, I got a good job, I'm going to school, got an education, I'm doing this thing, I'm Miss Independent or Mr. Independent, I'm doing this thing on my own, I don't need a partner, I don't need a husband. Do couples who stay together build wealth? Do couples who are together longer periods of time, families that are retained as a unit, this is my thoughts on this, do they do better off?
Are they better off, you say?
If everything's great between the husband and the wife, and assuming they're not any, are they better off as a couple?
Unmarried.
Married.
I would say yes, they are better off.
Do they thrive better?
They do.
You said you've been there for 70 years on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, you noticed that couples who stay together do better.
But there's been a decrease in that marriage bond. There's been a decrease.
Has that hurt our communities?
Of course it has.
Is that why we got 50 to 60% of children being raised in poverty in Black America?
Of course.
So we have to change that.
But we're going to have to do it with the generation that's coming along. They have to be trained. They have to be fed. They have to be taken care of. And they must know that you don't just go out and get babies and walk away. See, some of these generations, they thought they were doing, they had nobody training them.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we got a string of all these children
mm-hmm.
with no father in the house. That, it is important that there be two people in the house. It's important. I don't care if someone get angry or not. When I got my divorce, you all were big enough that his family kept up too much confusion, and it was not good for my health nor my family.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I had to let them go. But it's important. I'm sure Walter was great when he was home. I'm not going to deny that.
Mm-hmm. He
took care of us. He provided for us. And we were friends and we enjoyed each other. But see, things change.
Mm-hmm.
But, it is important. We have a lot of single women nowadays.
Do you hold yourself responsible or accountable for your children's plight and the plight of your grandchildren and great-grandchildren? Did you do anything that you regret that has caused this generations of issues that remain in our family? Do anything that you regret?
Well, I'm going to say this, that as people grow up, and this is what I was worried about, them picking up some of the things that were going to happen on my family, his family. They pick up these things and have it, it's a lot raising children. It's a lot. And don't let nobody tell you it's not.
Oh, that's why I don't have any children. Because I know that's why I don't have any children. Don't want to hear.
But see, if you're a devoted parent,
of course,
you don't mind the lot bearing down on you because you want the best for these people.
I agree. If those who want children,
right?
Because it's a very responsible. But you didn't answer the question.
What was the question?
Are you responsible in any way at all for the plight of your children, their children, which will be your grandchildren, and now a new generation of great-grandchildren out there? Isn't there some great-grandchildren
I would say that in a sense of speaking, I could accept that responsibility. But when you have people that don't want to listen to you advise them,
mm-hmm.
then you got to have that relationship where you can say you don't want to walk that way, you don't want to do this. But if everybody wants their own way of doing things,
do you think that you're responsible for any way for your relationship with your daughters?
Well, that's a common.
Okay,
not just me, but all mothers go through.
There was friction between you all.
There's nothing unusual about that.
Do you
with
think
my
that
mother.
you handled it the correct way? Would you have made any changes? The reason I'm asking you these questions is we got a generation of women raising children now. Can you give them some advice? What would you change about the situation between you and your daughters that caused all this friction between you and them?
Yeah, but you got to remember when the friction started. When you have a 17 or an 18-year-old starting, and things begin to go south, that's because these people are maturing and they don't like for you giving them advice anymore. Okay,
your oldest daughter passed away in her mid-40s. You all's relationship for years was very strained. You would agree?
No more than my mother and myself.
Okay.
I'm serious.
Oh, I agree, but do you think that this could have been changed or avoided or something? Could you have changed anything that you look back on it, do you wish you had done anything differently is what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, maybe what I could have done differently was just let them grow up. Don't advise them. If they come to you and they want to know something, then you advise them. But when you're telling them something and they think they're grown, you got a lot of conflictions going on in there. They don't want to hear it. And that's because they have to grow up.
And this went on for years.
They got to grow up.
But this went on for over 20 years.
They go over for 20 years.
Mia was in her mid-40s.
So, see what,
from 18 to 45, there was tension between you and her. That was a long time.
But you don't...
Do you hold yourself responsible in any way?
I don't. There was too much. There was too many people feeding into me as ears, turning her against me. So, when you have kinfolks that are meddling into your affairs, then your children are going to.
How can you change all this stuff? How can you correct this stuff that doesn't happen? We don't want to continue. If you see what has taken place between you and your daughters, and it's happening with many women and their daughters, how would you advise them? What would you tell them to do differently that you didn't do if you think that you can change the outcome, if this can be changed at all? Can it be changed?
I think it's maturity. Now, when I look back over how my mother was raising me, I have to admit she was doing a good job. She was trying to keep me from getting involved with any man, getting kids, and being in the country. But when you're in the city, you got a lot of problems. So, there's everybody knows that there's always conflict between a mother and a daughter. Everybody writes a book. Everybody preaches on that. There's always conflict between a mother and a daughter.
So always. You said that is normal.
It is normal.
It's
a growing pattern.
It's dysfunction, Mama.
It's a growing pattern, Walter. These people have got to grow up.
So you and I had our issues. We got past it.
You're a man. It's a different thing. But women don't get along.
Okay.
Women really don't get along.
And so you don't hold yourself accountable at all. I'm just asking. I don't know. I'm on the outside looking in.
When you say accountable,
did you do anything that you regret?
I mean, if you try to tell a person,
different? I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
If I try to tell a person that they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't associate with that one, and they feel like, hey, I'm grown, I'm going to do it anyway. I mean, look at the regrets that she had for marrying a man, and the mother-in-law didn't like her, and it was just a big mess. And I tried to warn her.
But for 20-something odd years, 25, almost 30 years, there was great tension between.
Not all the time, This
I would say 90%.
Well, I wouldn't say 90%.
Did you ever sit down and try to talk with them to try to resolve these differences?
Oh, we were good friends, whether you know it or not. We were very good friends. But, like I said, they had so much working against them in the world. We're in a world nowadays is unreal what's going on in the world. We were good friends.
Okay. So, no advice you would give a mother today, particularly with girls. So I'm noticing the mother-daughter relationships kind of.
Yes, it's a normal thing. It is a normal.
Are you saying normal? But is this dysfunction that we're normalizing in our community?
Well, no. What you got to remember, you could still be. We loved each other. Mia would always tell me, "Mama, I love you. I love you." So it wasn't that she didn't love me. It was that she was growing up, constantly growing up. She never got a chance to. She got involved with all these other people that wanted to talk about her mother being so strict and so this and so that. Instead of realizing I was trying to protect her.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just, but everybody knows that there's always a mother and daughter conflict. It is a known fact.
So this isn't dysfunction, it's just normal. That's just the way it is.
This is the way it is.
And you're not normalizing this dysfunction.
Huh?
You're not normalizing it. You're not taking this dysfunction and say, okay, this is normal. This happens. This is just...
If it was just a few people that were having that problem, then you would wonder what's wrong. But it is a worldwide thing about a mother and a daughter. You go into the bookstore, they have more books about how to have a relationship. They're not. They should got to grow up and go her way.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're gonna be finishing this up. We're gonna do one more video here. Any topics you want to discuss?
Well, my greatest thing is education. Even if you have a child out of wedlock, that child should be the top priority of your life. Love them, educate them, and provide for them. Just don't have a child just because everybody else is having a baby. It is so important to educate that child before he leaves your door. Show them that you love them, him or her. Don't get a whole bunch of them because it's hard for a single woman to be in love with a lot of children on her own. It's very difficult.
All right, so I do want to, in the next video, I just want you to tell me things that you would do differently with your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your own life. 70 years of wisdom here. What would you do differently? I want you to think about that for a few minutes before we go into it. The next video. What if you can go back and change something? What would you do differently? Would you be involved in the Jehovah's Witness religion? Would you have your children so intricately involved with that? You had us at the Kingdom Hall Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday the field service, and we back at it again on Sunday. Did that help your children?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Walter. In this life that we live in, you want your children to have a relationship with God. You want them to know the Word because you know that this is a passport for them.
An education with God, but what about education?
Well, what you're saying. Now, if I knew now what I knew about, that's what you're asking me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely. You would have an education. Everybody would have went to college because they were capable of going.
So would you have been better off having your children in Bible book study on Tuesday night? Watchtower, what was Thursday night? It was... was it Watchtower? No, it was something.
Preparing yourself to go out in the field service, all I can remember.
Something on Thursday for about an hour or two. Saturday was field service. Occasionally you have to do Watchtower. The Watchtower, Wake Magazine at somebody's house. And then Sunday service. That's a lot of hours. Your children could have been studying school, learning how to play an instrument.
That's true.
Learning different languages.
That's true.
But you've done anything differently?
Of course I would have done things differently. But I thought that the world was going.
And it's still rolling. So we still rolling.
So
we're about to roll into this new video. My mama's going to talk about what she do differently. And I think it's both best to focus on the future. You've got 70 years of experience, and I'm a young 47. So you have way more experience than me in a lot of stuff. But we'll be back in a few minutes. Today it is, and get this time, date and time again. Even though nothing's changed on this day, we're still in Tuesday. It's January 9th, the year is 2018. My name is Walter Hampton. This is technically my mother, Alberta Hampton. I'm going to give y'all her email address. Y'all can write us some questions. So we'll answer those in future videos. We'll be back in a few minutes. Give us a second. We're out of here. We'll be right back.